Welcome back to Lab Cyber. Today's video is going to be dedicated to students who are attempting to write their CompTIA Security Plus 701 exam, because in this video together, we are going to answer 10 different questions, and the main objective is to show you how to think when attempting to answer the question. So hopefully this video will help you out quite a lot. So without wasting any more time, let's jump right in. All right, so the very first question is actually a tricky one, and it says several attempts have been made to pick the door lock of a secure facility. As a result, the security engineer has been assigned to implement a stronger preventative access control. Which of the following would best complete the engineer's assignment? So the keyword you need to immediately identify in this question is going to be the word best. Basically, CompTIA are telling you that, okay, the options we've given you, all of them in certain kinds of scenarios could be correct, but we want you to choose the best option, the best answer. Let's take a look at them one by one. Replacing the traditional key with an RFID key, RFID being the radio frequency identification key. Installing and monitoring a camera facing the door. Setting motion sensing lights to illuminate the door on activity, and then surrounding the property with fencing and gates. So all of these options are actually quite effective. All of this could prevent people from attempting to pick the lock of the door. But which is the best answer? Well, let's start from the bottom, okay? Surrounding the property with fencing and gates. Yes, this could maybe try to prevent them from attempting to pick the lock, but it still won't deter somebody who is very, very insistent. Somebody who really wants to pick that lock. They will find a way to bypass the fence, the gates, and eventually attempt to pick the lock. Setting motion sensing lights to illuminate the door on activity. This is more of a deterrent kind of control. Just because you have motion sensing lights doesn't necessarily mean that it will prevent the criminal or whoever it is from attempting to pick the lock. It's still not going to help effectively. And then installing and monitoring a camera facing the door. Again, this is more of a deterrent control. What if the criminal wore like a mask? What if they were able to cover their face? Having a camera pointing at them isn't really going to help. So eventually, the best answer here is going to be replacing the traditional key with an RFID key, because again, pay close attention here. They're saying several attempts have been made to pick the door lock. They're trying to pick the door lock. So what if you just replace that door lock with an RFID key? They will no longer be able to try to manually pick that lock. So that's why option A is actually going to be the best answer for this type of question. Now, the second question could either be the easiest question or the most difficult. It's all going to depend on your knowledge of the acronyms, because it says that which of the following is an effective tool to stop or prevent the exfiltration of data from a network. You have DLP, NIDS, TPM, and then FDE. Like I said, this could be a very easy question if you knew what this acronym stood for. But it could also be the most difficult, because what if you don't know what the acronyms stand for? You're more than likely going to miss the answer. Let's take a look at them one by one. DLP stands for Data Loss Prevention. NIDS is the Network Intrusion Detection System. Your TPM is your Trusted Platform Module. FDE is your Full Disk Encryption. Now, let's start from the bottom again, okay? The Full Disk Encryption, yes, you might be able to encrypt the data so that it's not readable, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to stop or prevent an attacker from being able to actually exfiltrate that data. So FDE is not the answer. TPM is your Trusted Platform Module. That's not really going to help preventing the exfiltration of data either. Your NIDS, your Network Intrusion Detection System, yes, it might detect that attacks are taking place, but detection is not the same as prevention, so that cannot be the answer. DLP literally means data loss prevention. There's strategies involved in preventing or stopping data from being exfiltrated. So DLP is going to be the answer to this question. Now, the good thing or the bad thing, mostly the good thing, is that these kinds of questions are not very, very common in the exam itself. Usually, if you're going to get questions like that will involve acronyms understanding, at most you might be faced with one or two of such during the entire exam. So I won't stress too much about mastering what the acronyms are and all that, but naturally you should know as many acronyms as possible. That would really help improve your chances of passing the exam. So the next question, which of the following can be used by a monitoring tool to compare values and detect password leaks without providing the actual credentials? So we have encryption, we have masking, we have hashing, and we have tokenization. Okay, let's start off with the very first option in here, encryption. Encryption is mostly used for ensuring the integrity of data. You can't really use encryption to detect a password leak, so encryption is not going to be the answer. We have masking. Now, masking is mostly used to hide the characters in a sensitive data. So maybe like a password, you could hide like the very first 5 characters of the password, or maybe even hide all the characters by using the asterisk symbol. So again, it's not really used to detect a password leak as such. Hashing, tokenization, no. The answer obviously is going to be hashing. It cannot be tokenization because tokenization, again, is just basically you replacing either a password or any kind of sensitive data with a token. So it's not really you being able to detect a password leak. Now, hashing, however, is going to be the answer because hashing is a one-way process. It's very, very deterministic. When you hash the data over and over again, it will always produce the exact same value. So when you get a different hashing value, then you know that, okay, that data has been compromised, that password has leaked. And hashing is a tool that you can easily use to compare values. So the answer here is going to be hashing. Question number 4, which of the following would be indicative of a hidden audio file found inside of a piece of source code? We have blockchain, cipher-suit, homomorphic encryption, steganography. The answer here is steganography, okay? I want you to know that whenever you're faced with questions like this about hiding an audio file in a text message or hiding in an image in a piece of code, anything involving hiding something in something, steganography is going to be your answer. It's not going to be blockchain. We're not dealing with audio files and blockchain. Cipher-suit, homomorphic encryption, no. None of that involves hiding audio files inside of a piece of source code. So the obvious answer here, and hopefully it was obvious to you, the answer should be steganography because, again, whenever you see any question involving hiding something inside of something else, steganography is very likely going to be the answer to the question, just as it is to this question. Question number 5, a security analyst has identified malware spreading through the corporate network and has activated the CSIRT, the Cybersecurity or Computer Security Incident Response Team. Which of the following should the analyst do next? So we have review how the malware was introduced to the network, attempt to quarantine all infected hosts to limit further spread, create help desk tickets to get infected systems re-imaged, update all endpoint antivirus solutions with the latest updates. Okay. Now, I want to take my time with this question, okay? In this kind of question, okay, imagine a scenario where your house was on fire. It's not a big fire, it's a small fire. What would you do next? Are you going to run out of the house? Are you going to start investigating how did this fire start? No. The very first thing you would want to do is to put out the fire, right? So try to think of that in relation to this question. Which of the following should the analyst do next? An incident has occurred. What next? The immediate thing the analyst needs to do is to attempt to quarantine all infected hosts to limit further spread. The damage has been done. Now, the first thing we need to do is to limit or stop that damage as quickly as possible. So the answer here is going to be B. It cannot be review how the malware was introduced to the network. This would be like you trying to review how did this fire start. while the fire is still burning, right? So that's not going to make any sense. This is something you will do after the incident has been resolved. And then create help desk tickets to get infected systems re-imaged. Again, you do this after the incident has resolved. And then finally, update all endpoint antivirus solutions with the latest updates. Again, you do this after the incident has been resolved. This would be like you trying to ensure that, okay, in the future, my house is not going to be on fire again. So I need to make sure I don't fall asleep while cooking. I need to make sure I have a fire extinguisher close by and it's actually working. Like, these are things you do once the fire has been extinguished. So going over here once again to the question, the best answer here is going to be attempt to quarantine all infected hosts to limit further spread. That's the answer to the question. All right, question number 6. So it says, during an incident response, an analyst applied rules to all inbound traffic on the border firewall and implemented ACLs, access control lists, on each critical server. Okay. Following an investigation, the company realizes it's still vulnerable because outbound traffic is not restricted and the adversary is able to maintain a presence in the network. In which of the following stages of the cyber kill chain is the adversary currently operating? Now, the cyber kill chain, this typically describes the processes of an attacker launching an attack to the very end. It's typically either 7 stages or 8 stages now, because certain cybersecurity professionals want to add monetization as the final stage. However, let's look at the options. Okay, so we have reconnaissance, command and control, actions and objective, exploitation. Reconnaissance cannot be the right answer because reconnaissance is typically the very first stage where the attackers will gather as much information as they can about the target, right? Command and control, possibly. Let's hold on to that just a bit. Actions on objective, possibly. Let's hold on to that a bit. Exploitation. Now, this isn't the exploitation stage because the attacker has in fact already exploited certain weaknesses and vulnerabilities. Why? Because the attacker in this scenario has been able to maintain a presence. And the reason why they've been able to maintain a presence is because they've already exploited a certain weakness or a certain vulnerability on that network. So we know reconnaissance and then exploitation are not the answers. It's either command and control and then actions on objective. Now here's the thing. Actions on objective is typically the last process, because this is where the attacker will do what they've wanted to do, which is either to maybe steal the data or corrupt the data or anything else, right? Being able to maintain presence, however, that's going to be the command and control, because now the attacker has already gained access, all right? They've already exploited the vulnerability. Now they want to ensure that they remain present on the network so that even if their presence is detected, they're still able to maintain it. That's why the command and control is going to be the right answer here, because again, the attacker has gained control and they want to maintain that control because they can then go on to the final stage, which is not to actually do what they want to do on that network or on the data that they've gotten access to. So command and control is actually the right answer for this question. Question number 7, which of the following is the first environment in which proper secure coding should be practiced? We have stage, development, production, and test. Okay, stage. The staging environment cannot be the very first because the staging environment is meant to replicate or resemble as close as possible the actual production environment. So obviously staging cannot be the very first environment where secure coding will be applied. Development, possibly. Let's hold on to that. Production, obviously not. Production stage cannot be, the production environment cannot be the very first environment where you're implementing secure coding. Now, secure coding should have been done way earlier. Now, test, maybe. So let's take a look at the two options we have left, development and test. It cannot be the testing environment because the testing environment is meant to test the application or the code that has already been produced. You're testing for vulnerabilities, for bugs, things like that. So testing cannot be the answer. The answer here is going to be the development environment because this is where you're developing the code, where you're developing the application. It is the very first environment where secure coding should be applied. So the answer here is going to be development. Question number 8, a smartphone user wants to access features not available in the standard operating system. What method would enable this? Now, ideally, you should know the answer to this question pretty easily, right? So we do have the options: exploiting database vulnerabilities, utilizing scripting vulnerabilities, jailbreaking, direct software installation. Jailbreaking is going to be the answer. It cannot be exploiting database vulnerabilities. That might help, but you're more likely going to do some very severe damage if you're trying to exploit any kind of database vulnerabilities. Same goes with utilizing scripting vulnerabilities as well. Direct software installation, the operating system itself in its default state might not allow you to install certain kinds of software to begin with. So the answer in here, very, very simply, is going to be jailbreaking. Question number 9, a security professional is reviewing the security measures of a financial firm's data storage system to ensure it aligns with the C and I of the CIA triad, the CIA triad being confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So which of the following actions would best, keyword again, best, ensure adherence to the C and the I? So we have encrypting stored data, implementing a firewall, regularly updating software, and then conducting background checks on employees. Right off the bat, we know that conducting background checks on employees is not going to be the best solution to this, because so what, you conduct a background check on the employee. Okay, you figure out that, okay, this employee is a former criminal. Okay, if you fire them, that does not mean that actual employees that don't have any history of crime or anything like that, that doesn't mean that they wouldn't be in a position to actually try to steal data or gain access to data that they're not supposed to have access to. So conducting background checks doesn't really help in here. Regularly updating software, again, how would this ensure confidentiality? I don't know, so that cannot be the answer. Implementing a firewall, this could help with the confidentiality part, because you could design the firewall to allow access from a certain range of IP addresses. So you could say anyone whose IP address isn't in this particular range, don't allow them to have access to the data. So that could help with the confidentiality. But what about the integrity? It's not going to help, right? Firewall will not ensure the integrity of data. So the answer here is going to be encrypting the stored data, because when you encrypt a stored data, you're making sure that, first of all, because it's encrypted, it's only going to be made available to those who are supposed to have access to it. So it's going to be confidential. And then second, because the user or whoever wants to view that data, they're going to need to be able to decrypt the data. It's also going to ensure the integrity, because it's almost impossible to try to corrupt any data that is well encrypted, right? So encrypting stored data will be the best answer to this question. And the final question, question number 10, and it says, which of the following describes a social engineering technique that seeks to exploit a person's sense of urgency? So we have a phishing email stating a cash settlement has been awarded but will expire soon, a smishing message stating a package is scheduled for pickup, a phishing call that requests a donation to be made to a local charity, and then finally, a spam notification claiming to be undercover law enforcement investigating a cybercrime. Now, notice the keywords in here: a person's sense of urgency. So time is of the essence. Now, starting from the bottom, a spam notification claiming to be undercover law enforcement investigating a cybercrime. This might create a sense of fear, panic, but not necessarily a sense of urgency. So that's not the answer. A phishing call that requests a donation to be made to a local charity. Come on. How will this create a sense of urgency? Most people don't even like donating to charities to begin with. And even if they wanted to donate to a charity, they're certainly not going to feel a sense of urgency to do that. And then a smishing message stating a package is scheduled for pickup. Again, all right. It's not really going to create a sense of urgency either. But the answer here is going to be a phishing email stating a cash settlement has been awarded but will expire soon. The keywords there, will expire soon. So that time That time factor is what will create the sense of urgency. So the answer here is going to be option A, a phishing email stating a cash settlement has been awarded but will expire soon. So that's it for today's video, where we've taken a look at 10 questions for the CompTIA Security Plus 701 exam. Now, if you enjoyed the video, do give it a thumbs up and share the video with anyone whom you feel might benefit from it. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, maybe you don't agree with one of the answers, or maybe you need more explanation, put your comments down in the comment section below and I will answer them. And of course, if you want more videos like this, be sure to let me know. I will make more videos. And if you want me to cover even more questions, maybe 15 questions or 20 questions, make the videos a bit longer, do let me know as well. Thank you so much for watching. If this is the last time you're going to watch any questions related to the exam on YouTube, maybe you're taking the exam very, very soon, I want to wish you all the very best, and I hope that you will pass your CompTIA Security Plus exam and get your certification. My name is Alex. It's been a pleasure making this video. Thank you for watching, and of course, I will see you in the next class. Cheers.